Hey guys, welcome to Quinian's Budget Crafts. So I know I've done trees before, but I want to do another one, but I'm going to do it a little different this time. We're going, instead of like a smaller tabletop kind of tree, we're going to go with a big, gigantic, centerpiece kind of Game of Thrones tree or the white tree, that kind of thing. I'm going to use a 14-inch long dowel, and we're going to base it on this dollar store clipboard. I just went ahead and cut these pieces off to make it nice and square, using regular old razor knife. You don't need to use a saw. It's probably worth saving this piece here, or the cardboard part of it, and of course these, we've already covered how to take those off. I'll just set this aside for now. Go ahead and peel your sticker off if you haven't already. And like with any tree build, we'll be using hot glue. Lots of hot glue. So you might want to check to make sure that your board is not warped at all. Some of them are. I mean, they're from the dollar store. As far as the size of whatever you make this, I went with, I think this is 9 by 9 inches, which is a little strange, but a lot of tabletop games do use 3 by 3 grid tiles, so that actually kind of fits. I didn't cut the ends of this thing very square, but that's okay because the glue will make up the difference. As tempting as it is to put this thing on high temp, don't do that because the glue will take a long time to dry and you might burn a hole in your hand like I did last time. So just get your stick on there as straight as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect. It is a tree. They generally aren't perfect. If you're wondering what size this would be, because the pole is 14 inches tall, in D&D terms that would make the tree 70 feet. I know it seems gigantic and takes up a lot of table space, but actually 70 feet's about right for a tree. I mean, a big centerpiece kind of tree. So just go ahead and start building up your root structure all along the bottom of this thing. I'm going to be switching camera angles several times to try and make sure you see what's going on here. It's a problem with big builds like this, is really difficult to see. Now you could fill in some of this root structure with sticks or aluminum foil or pretty much anything that'll take up space. You don't have to just use hot glue. If you do want to use something like some matchsticks or whatever to take up space, it's pretty simple. Just put your glue down basically where you're going to want that. And put the stick on it. And we'll add more glue to it and around it later. Something else you could use is some heavy gauge wire. This is 16 gauge wire, so I mean it's pretty hefty. Just use some snippers here, cut off a little piece, and then you can bend that to the shape you want and put that on there. And then you can go in and fill in underneath here with pretty much anything, really. So to fill in under here, I'm going to use these styrofoam balls. They're from the dollar store, mostly because they weigh nothing and they take up a lot of room. So they kind of work really good as filler. These stupid things have static cling and they get everywhere and they'll drive you insane, just so you know. Just use a little bit of white glue to go ahead and stick them all down and together so they'll stop trying to run away. Something else you can do is you can mix some of these, some glue, a little bit of water or water glue, together in a cup to turn them into kind of a paste almost. At least they'll be all stuck together and easier to manage. You can just sort of smash them on wherever you want. We'll be covering these with hot glue, so don't worry about the texture being weird and lumpy. Just get kind of a base form of what you're after. Alright, once you got something that kind of looks more or less like a natural shape, I mean, you can always squish this later. These aren't going to be stuck too hard. Just go ahead and let this dry. You can see the silene's already starting to set up pretty good. It doesn't need to be totally dry because it will dry on its own through the hot glue later, and you're never going to mess with this part of it again, so even if it didn't dry, it wouldn't affect anything. But if you have an overhead fan like I do, go ahead and turn that thing on and let this stuff dry for about a half an hour or so. Okay, once these things are dried pretty much into place, I mean, they're not going to be perfect, they might still try to move around. Doesn't matter, we're going to cover it with hot glue. Go ahead and grab your glue gun and start covering everything. This might be a point where you actually do want to run it on high just to get more glue out at once. Once you've got your foam all covered up and you've got your roots covered and stuff like that, extra bit of hot glue. Now, as an optional step, I'm going to do, because you guys know I love my lights. You don't have to use lights, but I'm going to use some. These ones are blue. They're very bright. The rope lights might work pretty good here for the effect, but I don't really know how well they'd show up because the rope lights aren't very bright. So I am going to use the bulbs. So what we're going to do is make a lit up forest floor. You could use white, that'd look pretty good. Purple might be okay. I don't think orange would look right. But I'm going to go with blue because I think that'll look pretty cool. And unlike on the spooky carriage, these ones all seem to work. So a couple of considerations here. You have to have the battery pack where it's accessible so that you can change it out. And you need the switch where you can get to it. And you don't want this thing sticking out looking all stupid. So plan out what you're going to do first. I was thinking about putting some of those little corner walls on it. And then, twigs and stuff inside, which means this cannot be near the edge. I can hide this as a rock, so find a spot that'll work for that, but do not glue the top of the lid or the switch where you can't get to it. I think somewhere around here would work for a rock. I'm just going to leave this. I'm not going to glue it yet. Let's just give myself a little bit of cord. Do not glue your finger. That would hurt. So I can wrap this around as many times as I want to. So I'm not too worried about trying to hide the cord just yet. I might want to hide the cord later when I'm trying to get the lights exactly where I want them, but for now, we'll just leave it. Yeah, the low temp is kind of the way to go with just sticking these down, just so it'll dry faster. You don't have to wait 20 minutes. When you use the high temp glue guns, they're pretty hot. I mean, that glue takes a long time to dry, but it does flow nicely, so it depends on what you're trying to do, I guess. You notice I'm pushing all these wires out instead of towards the tree so that I can glue them out here and then run the roots over top of them. Okay, now that all the lights are on, everything seems like it's glued in place. Let's definitely make sure it still works. All of them are on. Take the hot glue, and this will warp your base a little bit, but we can fix that later. So just go ahead and take the hot one, don't glue by this, and start covering everything. Make sure it's all completely glued down. Okay, so lesson learned. The heat will transfer through your stuff here to the mat and warp it, but as you can see, it's not really warped anymore. It's an easy fix. Just put something on it, put your thing. Yeah, don't do it directly on the mat. I didn't realize it would go through like that. So anyway, once you've got all your glue down in a circle, you can check again to make sure your stuff still works. And it does. So the reason for the hot glue and not some other filler like sand or drywall compound or something is because the hot glue diffuses the light pretty well. Now, is a hot glue the best way to go? No, definitely not. Epoxy would have been the way to go. But that would be a lot of epoxy and it wouldn't have been cheap. So yeah, we'll just not do epoxy here. The hot glue will be fine. But before we go too far and put glue on the edges or any of that kind of stuff, The glue is going to be making up the forest floor, and the corner pieces, the little wall sections, are supposed to be part of the thing, not sitting on top of the thing. So put those down first, then fill in the rest of the hot glue. So that looks pretty good. I think I'm going to taper this wall. That looks nice. The thing with crafting that I think a lot of people seem to forget is if it looks right to you, it's right. There's no set right or wrong. It's crafting. Do it your way. There we go. I think something like that looks pretty good. If the glue oozing out is going to bother you, you can use your glue brush with some clean water on it and just scrub it off. It'll be nice and smooth. I kind of like this. It adds to the texture and stuff, so when you got to put flocking and things like that on, you don't have to do so much. I will trim this one a little bit, but I'll wait till it dries for that. Just spin it around and repeat the process on all four corners. Okay, once you've got all your corner pieces on here, however you want them to be, just go ahead and make yourself a hide key, essentially is what you're going for here. This is one of those rocks we made in the magnetic rocks video. So just take one of these things. I had to cut it, so I covered it with drywall compound to try and change the texture a bit. Could add a little hole that will accommodate your thing here. You can use this as a hide key. We'll get that sorted out later. For right now, though, let that finish drying because the pink's not dry. For right now, though, we're just going to go ahead and paint up these walls. Not sure if you could hear that fan. Sorry about that. I forgot to turn that one off. But I'm just going to go ahead and use my favorite gray for stone, and that would be pewter gray. It's a really good base coat, and then you can put lighter stuff on top of it. Alright, change up the camera angle a little bit. Hopefully you can see better. Realized you couldn't really see what was happening on that last segment. Alright, so now once this is dry, or close enough, do some dry brushing. We are going to use granite gray. It's this same, just all grayscale, just lighter. For the dry brushing, though, I have these makeup brushes from the dollar store. They're the Wet n Wild brand. You get 2 of them in a pack for $1, I think, something like that. They're really affordable, so if you ruin them, hey, whatever, in a dollar store, right? I'm going to use the round one. There's also a sort of fan-shaped one, but these are really good for dry brushing because they're super soft. Now I want the lighter shade to be on the downstroke, so all the top edge of the stone is what's getting hit with the... way too much on there. But anyway, the top edge of the stone is what's getting hit with the lighter stuff, not the bottom edges. Sometimes when you're dry brushing, you do want somewhat of a heavy hand, actually. A good rule of thumb, though, is if it looks like a bird just pooped on your thing, you've got too much on there. Just glanced over at my screen and realized I'm blocking the camera again every time I do this. One of these days I'll learn how cinematography works, or whatever you call it. It's always the catch with making videos, being able to make sure everybody can see what you're doing, but also being able to see what you're doing yourself. A lot of these grays will actually dry darker than when you first put them on, so don't be too worried about getting it too bright. Also, if the end result, when it dries out is still too bright, that's fine. A black wash will take care of that. Another color I like to use on old stone is antique white, but super, super sparingly. Just a little bit. Not all over either, just in a couple spots. The more paint you get off your brush as you go, the more you're able to do stuff like stab at things without getting too much paint anywhere, because there's hardly anything on the brush at this point. So there we go. I think that looks pretty good. From where I'm sitting on my screen, it looks like it's almost white. It's really not. It's still pretty dark, actually. But there we go. So I think what we'll do is cut out this little bit of glue that's in the way, and then when this thing's totally dry, we'll put some aquaphor or vaseline around the bottom so that we can actually set it in place, and then pour glue around it, and then it won't stick to the glue, and you can just pull it right out of that slot. Then it'll have a nice cozy little slot to sit. But for now, we need to figure out where the glue is definitely in the way. It's right here. Go ahead and get your knife, cut along that. I can't see what I'm doing. Get this out of the way. Just remove the glue where it's a problem. Probably could have saved myself a little headache by not putting so much glue down to start with, but yeah, it'll be fine. I'll ignore this spot right now, but fill in the rest of this with glue because it takes so incredibly long for that to work. Just trying to make the glue flow into that corner so I don't accidentally get it climbing the walls by touching it with the tip of the glue gun. That should work. It'll settle back out in a minute. And as you can see, I'm shaking and making creaky noises. This is already out of pre-hottened, that's a word. This is how the reservoir is empty. There we go. Alright, now's the most fun part, at least in my opinion. Mostly just because it's cool. So the goal here is to squirt the hot glue, high temp hot glue, at the base of your tree here and let it run down like lava, so it forms sort of a natural looking, tree base. Try to do this in as few steps as possible, or at least work in one area and then just let that cool and go to something else. If you do it in several little pieces, you'll get this kind of effect, and that's not what you want. So to make a root, all you gotta do is lay down a line of glue and let it dry. The trick here to get round tendrils is to hold the glue gun nozzle above the surface and let it sort of drip down as you squeeze it. Don't push it onto the surface or it'll smush it flat. Hopefully that's shown up on camera as well as I can see it in person. That looks really nice. Super gnarly old tree. Okay, just go ahead and paint up your rock the same as you did the walls. It's not really going to matter. We're going to put flock and stuff on it. I did put down a little bed of hot glue just to start with. So we'll take some aquaphor, we'll put it on the bottom, along the sides, and then we'll glue everything. It'll make sense in a second. You also want to put some on the battery thingamajig itself, because you get glue on that. Or you could, anyway. And yeah, this is going to make everything real greasy, which is gross, but it comes off pretty easily with a little bit of alcohol. So, get your stuff all coated. Load it up into the thing. Place your rock down where it's going to go. Make absolutely certain that it's exactly where you want it, because no second chances. Now you hope it doesn't stick. Although honestly, if it did stick, it really wouldn't be the end of the world. It would take some of the foam and a little bit of paint when you peeled it off, and you could just repaint that. Now, just for fun, I know it's going to stick to the thing. Don't worry about that. We're going to cut it free. You'll see. We're going to go ahead where this root is. We're going to fill this in like we did the other stuff. And then put the root over the top of the rock. Don't forget to fill in this portion of the tree trunk, and we can do a root coming off of this going over it too. That will just make this blend into the thing a lot better. And we'll still be able to get it off once we cut carefully around, where it's attached. There you go, just like that. Once this dries completely, we'll cut it free. I don't want to mess with it till then. So we want the lights to be able to shine through all the glue. So we're not painting it except for the roots. But we'll probably put some rocks down here and there. Definitely going to put down flocking and that kind of stuff. So that's the base layer. Next thing to do is start adding branches. So if you saw my other tree video, you're going to have to unspool quite a bit of this wire and then twist it together. I'll show you the twisting part, but I can't unspool it here. There's not enough room. Alright, here you go. Bundle of wire. I'm not sure how many this is. This is what I'm using for the bottom 2 branches. This is super long, but that's because once you twist this, you will lose quite a bit of length. Just bend it about as straight as you can. So the best way to twist this is to clamp one end of it into a vise and then use a hook and a drill in the other end to twist this. I could do that, but I'm going to assume you guys don't have vices and drills, so I'm going to use vice grips, which you should have. If you don't, they're cheap, get some. And just sort of hold and twist. Now, as far as how to get it on the tree, you can wrap it around if you want. That looks kind of strange. I've done it before. It really looks weird. Or you can clamp on either side of this and unspool it a bit so you can slide it down the tree, which is what I'm going to do. So for getting the middle over the thing, you just grab it on either side, basically like that, and then untwist it, only in the middle, like that. Figure out where the middle is, more or less. It seems to have opened perfectly right there for me. Figure out about how high you want your lower branch to start, and also what basic orientation you want these to be. So I'm thinking, given the size of a mini, you wouldn't have minis in here, but just for size, given the size of a mini, the fact that this tree is 70 feet tall in D&D terms, the lowest branch should probably be about like that. About, what would it be? Somewhere around 20 feet off the ground, something like that. A lot of the big trees I've seen like this in real life, their branches do start so high you're not climbing it. I kind of like the orientation too, as it's hanging over the rock. So we'll just go ahead and glue it in place. So you basically just repeat the process all the way up, and then we'll separate these into actual branches. So if you hear the 3D printer in the background, sorry about that. I did not think the print would take that long. Anyway, once you've got all your branches on here and you've clipped all the ends, either by cutting the entire thing off or just cutting the ends of the loops, then we can go ahead and start making some branches out of this. As far as what to do at the top, I went with this, whatever you call that. I'm going to put a canopy on it. So, go ahead and split off your wires here. Might have to angle the camera down. Go ahead and split off wires, and then you can pull those back about as far as you can. If it won't go any further because it's wrapped up in here somewhere, that'll be fine. It's whatever. You only need a few because you're trying to make little branches coming off. You can always add more wires to this from the stuff you cut off the ends of your other branches. Or you can bulk it up with hot glue, whatever. Pliers are definitely helpful here, especially to get it started because, ouch. So just split off a bunch of these things, however many you think you're going to need to make some little branches coming off the branch. Just don't split off so many that you made the main branch portion too thin. I mean, you can bulk it up with hot glue, but think about what your final deal is going to be and how thick you want each of these branches. Obviously, the lower branches are going to be thicker, so on the top ones you can split off quite a bit of that. But down here, you want to be more careful. Something you can do if you have a little branch on the end and you just want to bulk it up, but you don't want to split off any more wires, is take another little piece, just bend it around like so, hook it to your branch, and join it onto the little single piece you have down here for your other little side branch coming off the branch. That's all you got to do. You can just hot glue it all up and it'll be fine. If you don't want to take any more wire off at all, because this, I should have made this bottom one a lot thicker, but it's whatever. You can just take some loose wires and just wrap it right around the thing where you want the branch and just put a little hot glue like you did on the trunk and it'll stay. So like I've got this piece that I took off the end of one of them, I don't know which one, and it's already bent over in these little loops, so that makes it pretty simple. Just take a couple, 2, 3 of them probably. Open them up enough that you can get it around the branch. Be very awkward because you're trying to reach around the camera and not stick your head in the view. So just hold the loops against the tree branch here so it stays, and then use your pliers, twist it back on, or on, not back on, it was never on here to begin with. You know what I'm saying. Doesn't need to be twisted too much, just to kind of get it to hold. And then make sure you got glue in your glue gun. Go ahead and just stick it right on there with some, I like the low temp for this because it sets up pretty quick. Don't really worry too much if you got strings and stuff right now. I mean, you're going to be covering a lot of that later. It doesn't really matter too much. Since I have 6 wires on this, I can afford to spread it out a little bit, which is really nice because I can have branches coming off of the branches, coming off the branches. Something like that. So it's not setting up as quick as I would like. The hot glue heats up the metal, so it kind of takes a little bit to set. If you're extra super impatient like I am, you can take one of these that are twisted and twist the other end, and it just hook that right onto your thing like that, and then it can't fall down, and you're good. You leave it like that to dry. One thing that's pretty cool about this method is you can make this whatever you want. Like if you wanted like a Halloween tree or something, you could leave these all sticking out gnarly and just barely cover them, or don't cover them, just spray paint them. Or not. I mean, the metal's pretty cool looking too, actually. So you could have like a Halloween tree. Or you can do what I'm going to do and put a bunch of foliage on it and make it all leafy and stuff. Okay, so I actually am using the fan up there, if you can hear that thing going, and the 3D printer back there. Sorry about all the noise. The fan is to help me dry this faster, and you'll see why. So what you want to do is tilt this thing on its side so that the glue can run straight down the thing you're putting it on. Well, you can't see that. There we go. Okay. So yeah, you want it up so that you pour the glue on top and it runs down. So it'll be thinnest where you first apply it and then build up as it moves its way down. That way you get a natural sort of branch shape. Basically, no science to it. Just squirt it on there and let it go. The one thing I will mention though is you want to make sure you have complete coverage while it's molten. That way you don't have any weird spots and lumps, just in case you want to apply your bark texture directly to the glue. It's not what I'll be doing, but if that's what you want to do, it's an option. And also, see the way it's running like molten lava? It's because it kind of is. You don't want to let that touch you. So just keep putting it on there, spin it around, make sure you're getting that full coverage. I am using the high temp here so that it flows better. And of course, always try and not reach underneath the molten blob of Satan. So at this point, I was using the hot glue to try and fill in the trunk, and then realized that I was using way too much hot glue, and it was taking forever. And I have caulking, and that works just as well. If not better, actually. This did end up bulking up the tree trunk a lot more than I would have liked, so kind of got a little bit out of proportion. We'll go over that stuff later. To put the caulking on, just squirt a bunch on there and use a popsicle stick to spread it out where you want it. You're just trying to make this look pretty even. That's all you're going for. Once you've gotten your caulking to where it's basically dry, give it a couple days. Go back with your glue gun and then reconnect your roots going up the trunk of the tree there, just to get it all nice and flowing as one piece. If your branches are now too short because the trunk of the tree is much thicker than it was, you can just go ahead and take some little pieces of wire that you cut off earlier and just stick them right in there. Just melt a little spot and glue them in. That'll give you some extensions. In order to get rid of all these strings real quick, just go ahead and take your heat gun and give it a few passes, really. If you're making a Halloween tree, you could leave them on there. It looks like spider webs. That's pretty cool. Doesn't take much with this heat gun. The thing is very hot. It'll just blast these things off real fast. You can also use it while you're doing this to, kind of hit the branches a little and smooth them out, or anything like that you want to get done. For painting, I'm going to cheat a little bit here. Just go ahead and mask everything off with some computer paper, and then take it outside and spray paint it. This spray paint is flat red primer. Looks like brown to me, but sure, okay. Obviously, we couldn't spray paint the roots, but I do want them the same color as the rest of the tree. So you just spray some spray paint directly into one of those little throwaway shot glasses and paint it on like normal. Spray paint does dry very, very fast and is very bad for your brushes though, so either use an old terrible brush or just, make sure you wash your brush right away. But yeah, it's pretty simple. Just, go over all the roots. This stuff is pretty watery actually, so it'll flow pretty good. Once that paint is dry, just go ahead and take some straight Mod Podge or Eileen's or Elmer's or whatever white glue you like, and go ahead and smear it around the entire ground except for on the roots. You gotta be careful not to get it on the roots. Once you've got your glue all spread out, just go ahead and cover it with your favorite version of ground cover or flocking, whatever it is you like. I'm using a mix of Luke's APS medium green. That is probably the best flocking I've ever used, no kidding. Not a paid advertisement, I swear, I just absolutely love this stuff. I've got that mixed with some Italian seasoning, tea leaves, a little bit of grit stuff, just to make it look like actual ground instead of just moss or something. Once it's all covered, go ahead and cover everything in some 50-50 glue and water. Try and make it stick better. If you have any bald spots, this would be a good time to go ahead and put down some more flocking. To make some leaves, I'm just going to use a few colors of construction paper and this little leaf punch. Got red, orange, yellow, and some sort of brown. And just punch all of the papers until they have all turned into leaves. So I should have gone through and put more little branches or little cotton balls or something on the ends of these to make the leaves hold better. What I ended up doing was putting white glue on there and then trying to put some leaves down. It wasn't working really, so I sprayed it with Super 77, which did work. Unfortunately, the Super 77 got everywhere like it does, so the leaves, of course, stuck everywhere. Places didn't really make any sense for leaves to be. So I just went through with a stiff brush and tried to knock the ones off of any spots that seemed kind of strange. The whole thing does seem a little strange, because it doesn't have the little branches, that the leaves would normally be on. When you get done with all the leaf covering and stuff you like, just go ahead and spray the whole thing with clear coat, make it all stay. Couple of things I learned here is I would definitely have used a smaller diameter rod on the trunk. I didn't really think about that when I was doing this. I also would have put little leaf catchers on the ends of the branches, something, cotton balls or smaller wire, something, to let the leaves hang out on the ends like you're supposed to. But even with a couple learning experiences there, I'm still happy with the result. So there you go, an enchanted forest tree tile, I guess you could call it. You guys know the drill. Got Patreon, got Coffee, got Etsy, got the website with the affiliate links and all that stuff. But of course, as always, thank you for watching, everybody. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.